Welcome to the deep dive. We dig into intriguing information to find those key insights. And today, our source is definitely unconventional. We're looking at the collected visions, the pronouncements of a Polish clairvoyant, Krzysztof Jackowski. It's all from his YouTube channel, Jasnowidsy Krzysztof Jackowski Official.
Yeah, and our mission today, just to be clear, isn't about saying, yes, this will happen or no, it won't. We're really applying more of an analytical lens, looking at how these kinds of predictions are put together, what themes keep coming up, what might they tell us about maybe wider societal anxieties, things like that. So we're unpacking the visions, pulling out the main nuggets, and just exploring what they suggest about the future. Personal stuff, geopolitical stuff, everything in between.
And it is so broad. I mean, the level of detail he gets into is pretty surprising. So, yeah, get ready.
This touches on, well, almost everything, from weather forecasts to global conflict.
Okay, let's unpack this. So first up, something we can all relate to. The weather. He actually sounds personally quite frustrated, doesn't he? About the summer so far where he is in Pomerania, northern Poland. Says June, mid-July. Just haven't felt like summer. Cold, rainy.
Just miserable, basically.
Yeah. But he does give a forecast for what's left of the season. He thinks this current pattern, one warm day, then maybe two cold or rainy ones, that continues until about August 8th.
Okay, that's specific, August 8th.
Exactly. And after that, he sees two distinct periods of warm, sunny weather coming through. August, he says, is going to be the driest month of this summer.
The driest, right.
And then, maybe making up for the bad start, September is supposed to be exceptionally beautiful and warm.
Well, that sounds nice.
Yeah, potentially compensating, he says. And this better weather, relatively warm, stable, he thinks it lasts until around October 10th.
What's fascinating here is, well, just how specific it all is. Linking that everyday experience, like complaining about the rain, with these precise dates and patterns, August 8th, October 10th, it really speaks to that human desire for certainty, doesn't it, for a roadmap, even when things feel chaotic.
It really does, and that specificity can make it feel more credible, I suppose. But here's where it gets kind of striking, how even a simple question leads somewhere much bigger. Someone asked him about June 2026, right? Planning a wedding.
Yeah, just a normal life question.
Exactly. And his vision for June 2026. He describes a big mess in Poland. He sees the country either after some events or right in the midst of them, leading to disorder in many places. And he almost used the word ruins, but stopped himself.
Wow. So from wedding plans to potential ruins, that jump really shows how underlying anxieties, maybe about national stability or conflict, can just surface, even in response to something totally unrelated. It paints a picture of some deep unease.
So from weather worries and that glimpse of 2026, the visions then pivot pretty dramatically. We get into global politics and the threat of conflict. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
He shares views on U.S. political figures. He sees Marco Rubio as more focused, more composed. A contrast, he says, to Donald Trump, who he describes as, and this is the phrase, increasingly maturing towards war.
Maturing towards war. That's quite a phrase. It raises an important question, doesn't it? What does he mean by that? Is it intent, preparation?
Yeah.
It certainly implies a shift towards conflict.
Yeah, it's a loaded term. And then he gets into specific military actions, predicted ones. He says several European countries are apparently preparing for a landing operation. The goal, to repel Russia. Though he adds he's confused by this because he knows Russia isn't actually attacking European countries outside of Ukraine right now.
Right. That's his caveat there. An interesting detail.
And then Israel. For July and August, he sees continued offensive actions in the Middle East. Pretty much status quo, as he puts it. But then, late August or September, he foresees a significant development. Israel planning a serious offensive, he says, possibly international, meaning Israel could end up fighting two states at once.
Two states at once. Okay, that's a major escalation.
And connected to this, he predicts Ukraine will get long-range missiles, and they'll be allowed to use them against Russia. He calls this a tactical move that happens before Israel's bigger actions in the Middle East.
So it's all interconnected in his vision. Ukraine gets missiles, then Israel makes a major move. It really weaves together these different regional hotspots into one sort of accelerating narrative towards wider conflict. You have to wonder if that reflects a perceived reality or if it's more about how anxieties connect disparate events in our minds.
Yeah, it feels like dominoes falling in his view. Now, let's focus specifically on Poland again, because the prophecies there get quite alarming. He talks about an increase in arsons. He sees this as deliberate provocation, someone trying to drag Poland into war.
Okay, so not accidental fires.
Yep.
Provocation.
Right. But then there's a threat he considers more serious. Explosive devices, planted in industrial places. The aim, he says, isn't primarily to harm people directly, but to destroy infrastructure.
Infrastructure, wow, that's
Yeah.
different.
He envisions a few explosions, maybe 2, 3, possibly 4. And the result, panic among politicians, the media, the public, just widespread panic. He also gives a specific warning for Roko, the city, or at least its region, that says there'll be talk of some threat there, a need for caution.
That distinction is important, isn't it, between, say, random acts or accidents, what he's describing, deliberate targeted sabotage aimed at infrastructure. It almost sounds like a prediction of hybrid warfare tactics designed to destabilize without a full-on military clash.
Exactly. It feels very calculated in his description.
Yeah.
And then there's this really complex vision about Poland's next president. He calls this person Noraki. Apparently, he saw this person last September, an unknown person at the time who he says will become the next president.
An unknown who rises to power.
Right. He'll be seen as strong, will win the trust of the majority, get elected. But, and this is a recurring feeling for the clairvoyant, this president will betray Poles.
Betray them? How?
Well, he suggests it could be calculated, like deliberate betrayal, or it could be situational, tied to really difficult decisions this president, as commander-in-chief, would have to make during a war, decisions that, quote, no one would accept.
That's heavy. Betrayal born of impossible choices in wartime.
Yeah. And here's a key detail. This president supposedly takes office with external agreements already locked in, agreements made outside Poland.
External agreements, not Polish ones.
Correct. And he connects this to the president-elect flying to the U.S. to meet Trump. He sees that as like an electoral stamp. Trump endorsing Noraki, as he calls him.
The whole idea of betrayal in leadership during a crisis is powerful. People often feel let down by hard choices. And this external agreements bit, I mean, that suggests a real lack of agency, potentially. Significant outside influence on national policy right from the start. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really paints a picture of sovereignty potentially being compromised under pressure.
And he spells out the implication of these agreements. Poland's territory, he says, is set to become an extension of the operational area for Allied forces.
An extension
Yeah.
for Allied operations.
Yes. And he defines allies in that historical sense, WWWI, WWIR, UK, France, US. So the implication is if a bigger war with Russia breaks out, Poland effectively gives its territory over for that conflict, meaning the war would, in a sense, originate from this territory from Poland.
Wow. That's a massive implication for the country, basically becoming the front line, the staging ground.
Exactly. And alongside this, he points to big changes in Polish law. He says a new restrictive law has already been passed dealing with emergency or wartime procedures.
It's restrictive how?
It gives local authorities like city councils the power to decide which areas people have to evacuate or resettle from because of danger.
So forced relocation powers for local government.
Yes. It would mean temporary moves for a lot of people. He specifically mentions mothers with children and the elderly. They'd be moved, likely to central and western Poland.
Those are huge, practical, real-world consequences for ordinary citizens. Giving authorities that kind of power, it shows a society potentially bracing for significant disruption. You have to ask, what level of threat makes such laws seem necessary?
Right. And he describes the lead-up. It's not like, boom, sudden war, first a very tense situation, lots of uncertainty. But during that time, troops gather, regulations get issued.
The build-up phase.
Exactly. And this president-elect, Naraki, supposedly has ready proposals or decrees. Things prepared for him, not by him, ready for quick approval by Parliament right after he takes office. Possibly early August, he suggests, because there's little time before things might escalate in late August or early September.
Decrees ready to go, drafted by others, timed for just before a potential escalation. That suggests a pre-planned sequence of events.
And remember those explosions he talked about in Poland?
Infrastructure attacks, yeah.
He brings them up again, saying they could happen around this late August, early September timeframe. And on a related note, another big prediction. A regional blackout, a power outage across a large part of Poland.
A blackout. Where?
He mentions areas like Olsztyn, Białystok, maybe even closer to Warsaw. He says it won't last long, but it'll be a big problem and everyone will be talking about it.
Okay, why a blackout?
Here's the crucial part. He believes similar blackouts that happened recently, Spain, France, Portugal, Czech Republic, he thinks those were exercised.
Exercises by who?
NATO, he suspects. And he feels this upcoming Polish blackout will also be a real-life exercise. NATO practicing how to navigate and operate without power, potentially affecting, he estimates, maybe a quarter of Poland.
Wow. So connecting military buildup, new emergency laws, infrastructure attacks, and a massive blackout framed as a NATO exercise. It paints a picture of society being systematically prepared or perhaps manipulated for a major shift. This raises an important question. How do these perceived exercises blur the lines? Are they practiced for something specific, or could they be part of the event itself?
It definitely blurs the lines. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. He also touches on science and technology. And he's got some strong opinions, particularly skepticism about the moon landings.
Oh, really? The moon landings?
Yeah. He expresses far-reaching doubts about whether they were real. He finds it absurd when he hears claims, supposedly from NASA reps, that they've lost the technology to go back.
Oh, the lost technology argument. That's a common point in those circles.
Right. And he gets specific, like he saw a video with space tourists. He compares the spacecraft doors, which he thought looked thin, to the heavy pressure-sealed doors on an airplane. He calls the spacecraft doors a mockery.
Focusing on a visual detail like thin doors to cast doubt.
And his conclusion is basically, if the moon landings were a big lie, then it makes it difficult to believe many other things we're told.
What's fascinating here is that impulse, isn't it? Questioning the big established narratives. Using specific, maybe debatable details like door thickness to fuel that doubt. It really highlights how trust works, or doesn't work, when it comes to official accounts of major events.
Definitely a theme of skepticism there. Then, moving to medicine, he doesn't see an effective cure for type 1 diabetes, the autoimmune, insulin-dependent kind coming soon.
Okay, so not optimistic in the short term for type 1.
No. But he does predict that in the near future, science will develop artificial organs. Organs made artificially that will function properly in the body, getting rid of the need for transplants.
Artificial organs. Wow, that's a big leap.
Yeah. He specifically mentions an artificial pancreas, although he thinks that's maybe a bit further future.
So interesting contrast again. Pessimism on one specific cure soon, but long-term optimism for quite revolutionary tech like artificial organs. It shows that spectrum of foresight, maybe reflecting common hopes and fears about medical progress. Near-term challenges, long-term breakthroughs.
Exactly. Now, to wrap things up, he mentioned a specific case where a past vision of his apparently matched a real event.
Oh, a verified hit, so to speak.
Well, according to a listener, he recalled previously predicting a fire at a concert abroad. His vision involved panic, confusion, and fire. And then a listener wrote in to confirm that, yeah, the main stage at a big electronic music event in Belgium did recently burn down. They felt it matched his vision closely.
Huh. Okay. That apparent accuracy on one specific verifiable event, that can definitely add weight in people's minds to his other more future-oriented predictions. It provides a kind of anchor point.
Yeah, adds another layer. And just one last thing, a very personal bit of advice he gave. A listener named Maria asked about potentially losing her job. He saw two female colleagues, one older, one younger, who were hostile towards her and apparently had valid arguments against her. His advice to Maria was basically show humility if she wanted to avoid getting fired.
Very specific personal advice, too.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
We've really covered a lot today in this deep dive. It's an incredible range, isn't it? From, the weather outside your window and workplace advice, all the way to huge geopolitical shifts, glimpses of future tech, and that deep skepticism about historical events, all from one source.
It really is quite a spectrum. So what does this all mean? I mean, when you encounter predictions this specific, this far-reaching, sometimes frankly unsettling, what does it make you consider about how we process information, maybe? About that deep human need for foresight, and maybe our own sense of preparedness in a world that always feels like it's shifting under our feet. What patterns stood out to you as you listened to all this? What does this kind of material compel us to think about regarding the known versus the unknown?